When the final shape was being marketed, well, when it was being marketed the second time, Bungie showcased Prismatic with the idea that it was this advanced subclass. I didn't really understand what that entailed, and even a couple weeks of playtime with the final shape, I still don't really get the idea behind the advanced subclass. That is, until I went out of my way to make a goofy, all over the place build. Once this build was, well, built, I finally understood the advanced subclass comment, and today I'm showcasing this build, the Curio Collector. The curio in question we will be collecting will be the elemental pickups, specifically arc traces, since they tend to be the most valuable among pickups. We'll be enhancing these traces with Fallen Sunstar, an exotic helmet that increases the gains from arc traces and boosts their speed, making them easier to collect. Looking at the subclass, there's a lot of different things you can do here. I'm going to do things a little bit backwards here and talk about the fragments first, but everything will make sense, eventually. There are 3 fragments that are must-haves: Protection, Honor, and most important of all, Awakening. Protection is just so good. With the enemy count these days, it's always active, and there's really no reason not to take it. Honor will give some Transcendence energy when you collect a pickup, which we'll be doing a lot of. Finally, Awakening pulls the whole build together, giving elemental pickups on multi-kills. Let's talk about Awakening for a moment. It says, verbatim, rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. That's pretty simple. Get 3 takedowns in a somewhat quick succession, and you'll make a pickup for whatever element you did it with. What isn't mentioned is that you can also do the same with a kinetic weapon. Getting 3 quick takedowns with a kinetic weapon will create a pickup matching your super. This on its own is a very strong fragment, and it doesn't hurt that it gives plus 10 resilience as well. As far as the leftover fragment slots, there's plenty you could go for. I've played around with a handful of them, and some of my favorites are Grace if you're going to use a kinetic weapon, Dominance if you want to make your Transcendence grenade weaken, which is pretty handy, Balance if you need more ability energy, and Justice, which will make your ability takedowns cause explosions while you're transcendent. Getting rapid arc or kinetic takedowns with an arc super will create an ionic trace, which will then give a lot more ability energy with Fallen Sunstar. This is the main idea and pivot point for this build. For the rest of the class, there is a lot you can do. I have a hard time getting rid of Devour since it gives immense survivability and grenade energy for just playing the game normally. I also took Lightning Surge since it too can make traces pretty easily. For my abilities, I landed on Phoenix Dive, Arcane Needle, and Cold Snap grenades. Phoenix Dive doesn't really do anything here, I just prefer the instant heal over the Rift. Arcane Needle is a really solid melee, giving you the ability to unravel targets on demand, which adds a lot of damage. It also has 3 charges, which gives the flexibility to go between using Lightning Surge and the basic Arcane Needle. I took Cold Snaps solely for the Dark Transcendence it gives. With this build, there's a lot of arc damage involved, which means that Light Transcendence charges quickly and easily. Dark Transcendence is much harder to get with this build, and even if you took Facet of Sacrifice, which gives darkness energy on ability takedowns while you have a light buff, it just really isn't enough to make up for the lack of any dedicated darkness ability. You could take Threadling grenades, but the freeze and shatter from Cold Snap is what I found more success with. Now I tried a lot of different weapons, and honestly a lot of them worked really well. I tried taking a Darkness Super and a Darkness Weapon to try and boost up the Darkness gains. I've tried a Kinetic Weapon and an Arc Super for more traces. They all work, and I really do recommend you try out a wide range of setups to land on what you like. I personally first started with Delicate Tomb, which will occasionally create a trace on a takedown. Once you collect a trace, Delicate Tomb will then jolt on its next shot. It's a really good weapon, and it's a lot of fun to use. I myself don't really use Delicate Tomb all that often, so getting a chance to use it here was great. If you're looking for something a bit more effective though, you really can't beat Cold Heart. This exotic trace rifle will ramp up its damage the more you shoot, and will occasionally create a trace on hit, rather than on takedown like Delicate Tomb does. This means whether you're hitting a big chonky boy, or a bunch of smaller adds, you're making traces. You're not relying on smaller targets to keep the build rolling like you are with Delicate Tomb or even Facet of Awakening. Then we have the two other slots, Kinetic and Power. If you're following my particular setup so far, I honestly recommend sticking with a Darkness weapon in both of these slots. If you're running a standard legendary arc weapon, you could grab Microcosm as well. Exotic heavies are mostly light damage, so another route you could go would involve an exotic kinetic weapon. You could take an Arc Super and Kvostov, making traces with the bouncing bullets. You could also take Cryosthesia to freeze a group and then shatter and jolt them all with Lightning Surge. Again, for me, I've got Cold Heart, so I grabbed this Breachlight with Swash and Pugilist to pair with my Lightning Surge. Then for my heavy, I've been bouncing between Pro Memoria, the new Strand Machine Gun, and Dimensional Hypoturcoid, the Stasis Heavy Waveframe. My mods are super simple, just some siphons with Arc Scavenger and Special Finisher for my Cold Heart. This loadout, no matter how you build it, makes great use of Prismatic and the plethora of abilities and setups you can use. The main goal is to take your abilities and use them as often as possible. Arc Traces are the primary chase, as they're by far the most valuable, but depending on the weapon and abilities you choose, you'll be making all sorts of pickups. Stasis Shards, Tangles, Void Breaches. If you have a flavor of damage, chances are you'll find a matching pickup. They're all worth collecting, and once you get into the habit of picking them up, you'll find yourself having an incredible uptime of all your abilities, which is not only fun, but keeps your toolbox filled with all sorts of different effects at your disposal. And there's plenty of room in this build to change things around. If you value weakening grenades, take Vortex with weakening. If you want some more crowd control, take Cold Snaps and lock down some enemies. If you want a grenade to fire and forget about, take Threadlings and toss them wherever. Even the aspects are interchangeable, so if you don't like the slide melee, take off Lightning Surge and throw on something else, like Hellion or Stasis Turrets. So long as you have one arc weapon, Facet of Awakening, and Fallen Sunstar, you'll have the necessary components to make the build work. So all in all, this is what I have on currently. As I said, the main driving force of this build is the 3 fragments, Protection, Honor, and Awakening, the exotic, Fallen Sunstar, and an arc weapon, in my case, Cold Heart. Fallen Sunstar and Arc Traces give a ton of ability energy, and from there it's just a matter of what abilities you want and what weapons you want to use. A very flexible build, and there's room to really min-max and squeeze as much out of this build, or you can go a more relaxed route and stick to a jack-of-all-trades style. No matter how you tweak it, or if you tweak it, it's a very fun and strong ability spam build that will treat you well in a wide range of activities. Try it, change it, make it your own, and let me know what you come up with in the comments. Until next time, everyone.